Welcome to Algebra in Plain English. The learning intentions of this video are to introduce the basic concept of variables, to understand basic algebraic expressions, and to introduce the concept of pronumerals. Algebra seems like a very difficult concept, but we use algebra every day without knowing it. In fact, complex algebraic equations are more common than you think. Let's take an average situation for many people. Something as simple as going to the shop represents a basic form of algebra. Even going to the canteen represents some algebra. Let's say that you have to buy 3 pies. There they are there. How much money would you need? How do you work out how much you needed? Of course, that concept's quite simple. Let's say that a pie is $3.50. Just keep it to 3.504 for now. We can just pretend that we know that it's in dollars. The easiest way to work that out is with some simple maths. 3 pies equals how much? Well, we simply substitute the value of a pie into the equation. And 3 by 350 we know is 1050. Therefore, it's quite simple. We've just introduced the concept of a variable. We've also simply introduced the concept of algebra. 3 pies equals 1050. Now let's introduce a slightly more complex idea into the equation. Now let's say we also get sent to the canteen, and in addition to our 2 pies, we've been asked to also buy 2 cans of Coke. Well, it seems pretty simple, doesn't it? We've got to buy 2 by pies plus 2 by Coke. How do we work that out? Well, it's quite simple. You're saying to yourself now, this is very simple. Well, 2 by 350, so we substitute the values for the pies, plus 2 by Coke, which of course is going to be $2.20. What's the answer? Now, let's just work out each side of the equation. 2 by 350 is 7, plus 2 by 2.2 is 4.4. Add them together, we get 1140. If we're talking in money terms, to buy 2 Cokes and 2 pies, we would need $11.40. Quite simple. You can give yourself a tick for that one. So let's take things to the next level. We've put together a bit of a algebraic equation based on speaking in English. But we never ever say, I'll have 3 times pies and 2 times Cokes, please. We simply say, I would like 3 pies and 2 Cokes. We assume that the person we're speaking to knows that we're talking in multiples. 3 times pies, 2 times Cokes. But we don't ever say 3 times and 2 times. We just say 3 pies, 2 Cokes. You get the same thing happening in maths. To introduce an algebraic equation now, you might see us say that we want 2a plus 3b. Of course, this means that We want 2 times A and 3 times B. Just like we want our 3 pies and we want our 2 cokes. Now, by this point, I'm getting quite sick of saying pies and cokes. You guys are familiar with what they are, you do it every day. So, I'm just going to abbreviate because I think it's simpler. So I'm simply going to, instead of saying pies, I'm going to say P. Instead of saying cokes, I'm going to say C. You know what they mean. You know, P means pies, C means cokes. So let's rewrite this equation. 3P plus 2C equals what? Well, we know that P equals 3.5 or 350 and C equals 2.2 or $2.20. Let's work it out. So we're going to expand each side of the equation. 3P equals 3 times 350 plus 2 times 220. I'm going to put some brackets around these just to contain each part of the equation. We've got to work out what it equals. We do it by working out the value of each bracket before we plus them together. So this is called BODMAS, where we do the brackets first. So 3 by 350 is $10.50. $10.50 in pies. 2 by 220 or 2.2 is 4.40 or $4.40. If we add those together, we end up with a total $14.90. Quite simple. We could also say, put this back up here in our original equation and say 3P plus 2C equals 14.9. Isn't that amazing? Algebra is very, very simple. Next, I'm going to introduce you to the concept of pronumerals. It's going to be very simple. You've just worked with a pronumeral. A pronumeral contains both letters and numbers. 3P plus 2C. Now, here's a little trick. When we send somebody to buy 1 pie, or we send them to buy 1 Coke, we don't say to them, can you please buy me 1 by pie and 1 by Coke? You would say, can you please buy me 1 pie or a pie and a Coke. As a result, you will never see in algebra 1P plus 1C. If we're only working with 1, we just leave the number off. This implicitly, which means underlyingly or not obviously, implies that we are only buying 1 pie, 1 by P, and 1 by C. 1 pie and 1 Coke. Now the challenge for you, knowing what you know now, is let's say that example 1, a pie is now worth $3.80. How would you work that out? 2, let's say that a pie is now $3.80 and a Coke is now $2.50. Using this formula, 3P plus 2C, and using the values that I've given you, work out what x is going to be worth, or the value, or the total. Good luck.